Am I the a-hole for not wanting to reconnect with my son after he chose my cheating ex-husband over me? I, 45F, have a son from my previous marriage. I got pregnant way too young at the age of 20 from my high school sweetheart, David, 45M. We got married at the age of 22 after we graduated college. David was rich, and from the very beginning of our marriage, he made it clear that he didn't want me to work. He wanted a traditional setup, so I became a housewife, dedicating every single hour of my day to managing our home and raising our child. My son was the apple of my eye. I gave everything to him. I skipped social outings, gave up any semblance of a personal career, and poured all my energy into ensuring he had the most loving, supportive upbringing possible. He was my world. He and I were really close during his childhood. We had our own little routines, deep conversations, and an unspoken bond that I truly believed was unbreakable. I never had a doubt in my mind that I would not be alone in this world as long as I have him. I built my entire identity around being his mother, trusting that the love I invested in him would mean we would always remain a tight-knit unit. That is until 10 years ago, when the foundation of my entire life was completely shattered. I found out that my husband was cheating on me with a young colleague of his. The discovery itself was agonizing, but the absolute worst part, the detail that completely broke my spirit, was learning that my 15-year-old son knew about it the entire time. He had been actively hiding the affair from me for months. Imagine how broken I was. I was completely betrayed by the two people I cared about most in this world, trapped in a house where everyone else was sharing a massive, painful secret at my expense. When the truth finally came to light, I sat my son down, tears streaming down my face, and asked him why he did that to me. Why did he choose to hurt me so deeply? His response was cold and matter-of-fact. He told me that his dad explicitly told him not to say anything. David had bought him expensive electronics, designer clothes, and various high-end gifts specifically to keep his mouth shut and by his loyalty. To make matters worse, my son casually added that having a young, attractive stepmom made him popular amongst the kids at his school. The layers of deception ran so much deeper than I could have ever imagined. I was totally blindsided when I learned my husband had actually taken my little boy to meet that woman while we were still married. They had concocted elaborate excuses, telling me they were going away on a father-son ski trip, but in reality, they took his mistress with them. My son had spent an entire week playing happy family with his father and the woman destroying our marriage, all while I stayed home packing their bags and waiting for them to return. I felt like a total fool at that time, looking back at all the times I trusted them blindly. When the legal proceedings began, the betrayal culminated in the ultimate rejection. In the divorce ruling, my son chose my ex over me. He wanted the wealthy lifestyle, the expensive gifts, and the house his father provided. I was entirely heartbroken. Once the paperwork was finalized and the custody arrangements were set, my son didn't even want to visit me after it was all done. He refused his scheduled weekends with me, ignored my calls, and made it completely clear that he had moved on to his new life with his father and the stepmother. Despite the crushing pain of his initial rejection, the maternal instinct doesn't just switch off. I swallowed my pride and even tried to reach out to him once he turned 18. I thought that perhaps with a little bit of maturity, away from his father's direct influence, he would want to repair the damage. I called him, offering to take him out for a meal just to talk, but he just refused. He told me he didn't see the point in building a relationship with me. At that point, after years of crying myself to sleep and begging for a crumb of affection from my own child, I finally gave up and went on with my life. I had to close that chapter for the sake of my own survival. I would still get incredibly sad over the years, staring at his old childhood photographs and wondering how he was doing, what he was studying, and who he was becoming. But I strictly kept my distance to protect my own mental health. Eventually, the raw edges of the grief began to soften. I did move on with my life and met an incredible man who is a single father of 2 girls. He treated me with a level of respect and genuine care that I had never experienced in my past marriage. We built a blended family grounded in honesty. We got married, and just a few days after our wedding, I found out I was pregnant again. The pregnancy was an absolute nightmare from start to finish. I suffered from severe morning sickness, complications, and high blood pressure, which kept me in a state of constant physical and emotional exhaustion. During those quiet, terrifying nights of a high-risk pregnancy, the longing for my firstborn returned with a vengeance. I desperately wanted to meet my son and tell him face-to-face that he is going to be a brother to a baby girl. I wanted him to be a part of this new chapter, hoping the news might soften his heart. But the birth itself quickly overtook any plans I had. The labor was incredibly long and painful. Due to severe postpartum hemorrhaging, I almost died on the spot after giving birth to my daughter. As I lay in that hospital bed, hooked up to monitors and recovering from a near-death experience. The fragile nature of life hit me hard. I still wanted to meet my son. I kept thinking about how short life is and how much I wanted to hold both of my children. But as the days passed and I stared at my phone, remembering his harsh rejections and the fact that he had ignored every milestone in my life, I knew he did not want to see me. I didn't want to face another devastating rejection while physically vulnerable, so I just gave up the idea completely. Over the years, as my daughter grew, the memories of him just became vague as I fully immersed myself into my new family, pouring my love into the children who actually wanted to be in my life. Then, out of absolutely nowhere, a week ago, everything changed. I was sitting on my couch when my phone buzzed with a series of notifications. I opened my Facebook app and saw a string of direct messages from my son. I hadn't seen his name pop up on a screen in a decade. In the messages, he wrote that he missed me a lot, that he had been thinking about the past, and that he really wants to meet up with me in person. It took me completely by surprise. My heart dropped into my stomach, and I felt an immediate wave of intense anxiety rather than joy. Over the last 10 years, he has not contacted me once. He didn't reach out when he graduated college, he didn't check on me during a global pandemic, and he didn't care whether I was dead or alive. Now, suddenly, he wants to see me? Why now? I have been going over every single possible reason in my head. Did his father cut him off financially? Did his relationship with his stepmother go south? Does he need a medical history or a kidney? Or is it a genuine sudden wave of guilt? The worst part about this entire situation is that I do not feel excited about it at all. As a mother, I know the societal expectation. I know I should be over the moon, crying tears of joy, and running to open my arms to my long-lost child. But I am not. I just feel an overwhelming sense of dread and emotional numbness. My parents and my husband know about the messages. They have seen the toll this past week has taken on my sleep and my anxiety levels. Because they love me, they have been gently pushing me to meet him. They keep saying that I need closure after all these years of unanswered questions, and they constantly remind me that despite everything he did, after all, he is my son. But they didn't feel the blade of his betrayal the way I did. I don't know if I want to relive the same trauma. I am terrified that I will sit across from him, open my heart up one last time, and just get hurt or used all over again. So, am I wrong for wanting to protect the peace I spent 10 painful years building? If I do decide to meet him, I have already firmly resolved that I won't call him to my house. I am absolutely not allowing him into my safe space or around my daughter until I know his true intentions. Maybe a neutral, crowded public place like a quiet coffee shop where I can easily stand up and walk away if things go wrong. I am highly suspicious that he wants something from me, whether it is financial, emotional validation, or a favor, but I will be incredibly cautious of that moving forward. Edit. I've spent the last few days weighing everything heavily, reading through my old journals, and talking it through extensively with my spouse. I decided to meet him today. However, because of the sheer anxiety this is causing me, I am taking my husband with me for support. He will not be sitting with us at the table. He will watch us from a distance in the coffee shop, just to ensure I feel safe and have an immediate exit strategy if the conversation becomes malicious or manipulative. For those of you who have judged me harshly and called me a neglectful mother who never tried to reach out to him, well, I sincerely hope you never have to experience what it's like to be rejected, abandoned, and lied to by your own boy. I know a lot of you will try to justify his actions by saying he was only 15 at the time, but a betrayal of that magnitude is still a betrayal, and the choice to remain completely silent for the next 10 years of his adult life was entirely his own. But yeah, I will be keeping my distance today and keeping my guard completely up. Update. A lot of you have been requesting an update from me. I finally met my son after so many years. He was not a boy anymore. He was a man. He looked taller than I remembered. So, anyways, I will give an update. I read your comments. Some of you gave me good suggestions. I prepared myself for any possible outcome. He could be there to meet me and tell me about his life, or maybe reconcile. Or maybe he wanted something. Regardless of what it was, I kept my guard up. Asked him to meet me in a public park. Asked my husband to stay somewhere nearby so he could keep an eye on me. My son came 5 minutes after I arrived. He was all grown up. I won't lie, I wanted to cry right there on the spot, but I held my composure. He said hi to me, and I smiled. I commented that he had grown up and looked really nice. He just nodded. We sat down, and it was silent. I expected him to say something first, but I finally asked what he was up to these days. He told me he was doing fine. He had just finished college and was planning to apply for grad school. I said that was great. Then there was awkward silence again. He broke the silence and said, "You must be wondering why I contacted you." I replied, "For 10 years you haven't tried to contact me, so why now?" I cannot help but wonder why you are trying to contact me when you told me years ago you didn't want me near you because I embarrassed you. His face got serious and he said, I know that, but I need something from you. A lot of you suggested he might be asking me for money. Well, you guys were right. He asked me for money, and the amount was $20K. He said he needed it because he wanted to go to law school and his father couldn't afford it anymore because he had lost a lot of money a few years ago after his business failed and his company went bankrupt. He also had 3 more kids with his mistress-turned-wife, so they did not have enough money for grad school. It honestly broke my heart. After 10 years, I was finally meeting him again. Part of me hoped we could reconcile, and that maybe he would understand what I had been through. I even wondered if maybe his father had lied to him all those years. But no, he just wanted money from me. I told him I could not give him that kind of money, especially not such a huge amount. He got defensive immediately and kept asking why not. Then he asked, is this about Dad's affair? Geez, when will you get over it? I asked him, why do you hate me? What have I done to deserve your hatred? Have I ever raised my voice at you? Have I ever hit you or denied you things just to hurt you?
Then why?
Why did you always push me away when I tried to get closer to you? What exactly did I do? He took a deep breath and said, you don't understand, Mom. Did you really expect me to come with you? You had nothing. At least my dad could afford the lifestyle I wanted, and my friends actually liked Carla. Carla is his stepmother. Everything was fine until you found out about the affair and my deal with Dad. I get that you didn't hit me or scold me, but you couldn't afford the life I wanted. I asked him if he truly believed his father's affair was the best thing for any of us. I sacrificed a lot for him, and yet he chose someone he had only known since he was 14 years old. He said he didn't want to talk about that because it happened years ago and I should just let it go. I asked him why he never tried to visit me. I even asked if his father had stopped him somehow, or if there was another reason, or maybe something I had done that hurt him without realizing it. I reminded him that I had tried reaching out multiple times, but he never answered or made any effort to see me. I gave him space because I thought he was also struggling with the divorce. He yelled at me and said I was really annoying. His father never stopped him. It was his own choice not to see me because I lived in a small apartment with only 2 bedrooms. He hated living in a place like that. He also ignored me on his 18th birthday because the gift I gave him looked cheap and stale compared to the expensive things his dad and others bought him. I agree my gift was simple. It was a box of his favorite cookies and an old vintage watch. I was struggling badly at the time and could not afford anything expensive. But hearing him say that out loud still hurt more than I expected. At that point, I had enough. I told him clearly that I would not be giving him money. I spent years wondering where he was and whether he was okay, and yet he still treated me with disrespect. During the entire conversation, he never once asked how I was doing. He went straight to asking for money. I came there hoping maybe we could move forward somehow. He had no idea how much of a mess I became after discovering that the man I loved betrayed me, and then learning my own son helped him hide it. I thought we had a special bond. For years, I tried to convince myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe his father manipulated him. Maybe he was angry about something I had done. Maybe I had failed him somehow. But now I finally understood. I do not want to be his ATM. I wanted to be his mother, even after he rejected me. I am tired of feeling rejected, mistreated, and taken for granted. He became even more defensive and kept saying I could not do this to him and that I was ruining his life. I told him no. I could not trust him enough to hand over that much money. He told me to stop the BS because he knew I had money now and could easily give him some. I told him no again and again. At one point, he stood up and started blaming me, screaming that I was ruining his life and that I owed it to him. I called my husband, and he quickly came over to keep my son away from me. I know now that I should have trusted my instincts. I cried a lot after I came home. I lost him forever. I know a lot of you will call me a bad mother. Some of you will probably call me a narcissist. But I am sorry. I spent a lot of time in therapy trying to heal from losing both my husband and my son. I cannot allow him back into my life just to use me as an ATM. Even if I gave him the money, there is no guarantee that he would stay in contact with me afterward. He could easily disappear again, only to return later asking for more. I cannot go through that kind of pain another time. Maybe one day I could forgive the things he said to me, but I do not think I will ever forget them. He hated me because I had no money. I would have been happy with occasional visits or even small conversations, but he never wanted any of that. Additionally, during our conversation, I found out that he was actually the first person to discover my husband's affair, and he asked his father to buy him a new phone in exchange for keeping quiet about it. I lost. That's all I have as an update. I am sorry if there are mistakes. It is hard to write all of this and put it into words. And no, his birthday was not the only time I reached out to him like many of you assumed. I tried contacting him many times before that. He would say he didn't want to meet or come up with other excuses. I respected his decision and did not push too hard. I finally gave up after he turned 18, but I still checked his social media for a while after that before eventually stopping. Edit. Thank you so much for all the support. I am by no means a perfect mother, but I truly tried my best. As much as I am hurt by his actions that day, I still hope he learns responsibility and grows into a more mature person. With that being said, I hardly think I have the energy to consider reconciliation in the future, even if he comes back and apologizes. It was already hard enough for me to meet him yesterday, only to be humiliated again. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update.